Okay, so happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Yoga Between Two Ferns. Today we're doing yoga for beginners. So I'm going to teach this class like you've never gone to a yoga studio before, and whether that's true or not, I hope that you walk away from this practice with just a little more connection to your breath, to your body, and just awareness of your thoughts. Yay! Hey guys! So before we get started in our yoga for beginners, I want to give a little rundown on props. So if you go to a yoga studio, you'll likely see yoga blocks, or sometimes they're called bricks. They look like this. So if you have them at home, I'd like you to grab them. If you have two, great. If you don't have these at home, the purpose of them is to bring the ground to you when the floor is far away. So if you're like trying to reach down and then can't touch the floor, the block makes the floor come to you. So if you have like a really thick book, like a dictionary, who uses those? And you could also try shoe boxes, but also bend your knees. If you can't touch the floor and you don't have a block, just bring yourself closer to the floor. All right, and then the next prop we will be using is a strap. So the strap you can think of as an arm extender. If you don't have one of these, you can just as easily use a towel, like a hand towel or a sweat towel. So just think like if you want to reach your feet, but your foot's far away, you can use your towel to catch it. Or if you want to bind your hands behind your back, you can do it like that. And then another tool you might want is a pillow. If you have a bolster at home, it's just a long rectangular pillow, you can use that. But any pillow, I'm going to use this one back here. You could use a couch cushion, it's all good. So I'm going to give you a moment to scurry around your house and go get those things, and then come back, meet me here, and we'll talk about breathing. What's this? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yoga Between Two Ferns. I'm Arielle. And if there's anything in particular you want to learn, let me know. I know a lot of you are doing yoga at home, and some of you might be doing it for the first time. So my real intention is for you to get the tools for you to practice safely at home. And if your teacher online says Warrior 2, then you'll actually know what that is. All right, so when we talk about the breath, there's a specific way of breathing. I'm going to have you just, my hands are cold, so this is actually be a two-part win-win. I'm going to take your hands in front of your mouth and just breathe into your hands like you want to warm them up. That feels pretty good. I'm going to do that a few more times. Take a normal breath in through your nose, and then breathe into your hands. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. So you feel the heat, right? The idea is that we're building heat inside of our body. What up, Ashley? We're talking about breathing. Breathe into your hands one more time and make that whispering sound, the ocean sound. Hey, Eric. Okay, so now we're going to practice Ujjayi breath. So without your hands and without your mouth being open, do that same thing, breathing in through your nose. Lips closed, breathe out of your nose with that same engagement in the back of your throat so it sounds like the whisper. It's called Ujjayi breath, victorious breath. And what we're doing is we're engaging the glottis so that air travels out of us slower, which means we can retain our breath longer. And it creates heat, so we're building heat from the inside out. Let's try that again. Inhale through the nose. Breathe out through the nose, sealing the lips. Now that ocean sound also becomes somewhat of a melody, so your mind can follow it. And whenever you notice the melody goes off track, it speeds up or slows down, that's a good indicator that you need to back up. And then also, the engagement you're doing in your throat stimulates the vagus nerve, which gets us into that parasympathetic rest and digest mode, which is what we need to heal and recover. And especially with all that's going on, our breath work is going to be pretty important to keep our respiratory system healthy, right? So we're just going to start standing and breathing, and this is something that I like to do when I'm having a hard time breathing or I just want to connect with my breath. So you can stand comfortably, and we're just going to inhale as the arms go up. Exhale as the arms go down. And that's it. We'll do 10 of those total. So inhale, arms lift. Breathing out of the nose, engaging the back of the throat. Exhale, arms down. That's 2. Here's 3. Inhale, reach. Exhale, arms wide. And you might even be able to see my rib cage expand, but imagine your ribs expand as your arms lift up. And then your rib cage retracts as your arms come back. So we're creating more space in the ribs to fill with breath. Inhale, arms lift. But remember, the more you exhale, the more you can inhale. Breathing in, reach up. So focus more on those generous breaths out. Exhale more than you think you can. Even when you feel like you're empty of breath, breathe out a little bit more. And now the capacity is there to breathe in more. Keep with it. 3 more cycles. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Arms by your sides. Inhale, arms fly wide all the way up to the sky. Breathing out even more than you did before. Breathing in to fill up. Exhale, arms by your sides. Nice, we'll just do that one more time. Inhale, reach. Stay with that breath practice where we breathe only through the nose. Keep your right arm down by your side. Lift your left arm up to the sky. Breathe in nice and tall, and then start to lean over towards your right. And your right hand can just drag down your leg. It's okay if your hips sway to the side a little bit, but keep visualizing that left side of your waist expanding with the breath. The rib cage expands and retracts. Between each one of your ribs are the intercostal muscles. So those intercostal muscles can expand your ribs even more. Exhale. Good, and then come back up with both hands over your head, and we'll go the other way. So left arm down by your side, lean to the left, and now imagine the right ribs expanding with your breath. Then retracting. Do that 2 more times. One more Ujjayi breath into the right lungs. And then inhale, come back up with all the way, with your arms overhead. And then we'll just fold forward. Soft bend in the knees. Once you fold, go ahead and grab opposite elbows and just hang out here for a few breaths. Relax your head down. Bend your knees a lot. No need to lock out the legs. In fact, the moment we lock out the legs is the moment we lose power, we lose strength. So always keep a little bend in your knees. And then see if you can explore leaning forward a little bit more. So your hips feel like they're stacked on top of your heels. And your toes start to come alive. They wake up. They work a little harder. Notice the back of your neck or your shoulders. See if you can soften there. And stay with that breath. We call it Ujjayi breath, victorious breath. Awesome. Now go ahead and just let your hands come to the floor. Bring your knees to the ground as well. Come into a tabletop. So your hands are underneath your shoulders and your knees are underneath your hips. And then take a back bend in your spine, lifting your chin, sway your chest towards the earth. Look up. And then rounding through your spine, relax your head down between your arms. We'll move through that a few more times. Breathe in as you lift your chin. This is cow pose. Imagine you had 2 cow udders pulling your belly towards the floor. And then exhale as you press into cat pose, just like the scared Halloween cat, press up through your spine. Now this is a great place to notice if your elbows hyperextend. Like mine, my elbows bend backwards. Hyperextending is genetic. It just means you're over flexible in your joints. So we always have to add a little bend, a little flexion. And when you use that bend, you're actually creating more strength, more tone. So keep that in mind if you hyperextend in your elbows. We'll discover it in the knees later. Just remove any idea like you have to lock out your knees or your arms. That's never the case. Take one more breath. And then we'll come into a child's pose. So have your knees wide, bring your toes to touch, and bring your hips backwards onto your heels. Keep your arms extended long and relax your forehead down. Now this pose may not be easy for you if you have an injury in your ankles or your knees or your hips. So your alternative is to lie flat on your stomach. So you can always come here instead, lying on your tummy, hands stacked under the head. Otherwise, child's pose is a great alternative to downward facing dog. Or if you ever notice that breath runs away from you, gets too fast or too slow, then you come back to this pose and bring it back to the breath. Listen to it now. That ocean sound. Let it fill the silent space around you. And one of my favorite things to do while in this pose is to set an intention. And the intention is really just to help you stay focused on your practice. A go-to one for me is presence. Can I be present for every breath as it arrives and as it exits? So I invite you to take on that intention today. Or maybe there's something else you want to call into your life, like gratitude, connection, strength, flexibility, whatever it is. Just give it a word. Hold on to it. Seal it in. Take one more breath here in child's pose. And then carry it with you as you come back onto your hands and your knees. Now, the blocks might be useful here. If you have them, put them underneath your hands, and we'll step the right foot forward between the blocks. So giving yourself a little bit more space between you and the floor so you can stack the right heel underneath the right knee when you come into that lunge. And then keep the left hand down, whether it's on the block or on the floor, and then twist your right hand to the sky. Now stay here. But notice if that left shoulder is collapsing forward by your ear. Can you roll your left shoulder blade back and down? Find a little external rotation there. Awesome. Release your right hand down. And then we'll just take the hands up onto the right thigh for now and roll the shoulders back. Breathe into that left hip. Oftentimes I get requests to help release the lower back. We don't often think about opening up the hip flexors to release the lower back. But if you're sitting a lot and that hip flexor is flexed for an extended period of time, the moment you try to extend it, it'll pull on the back body. So just be easy on yourself here, and notice if your tail is sticking out behind you. If that's the case, try to shorten the distance between your back knee and your front foot, and then add a little more length through the tail. Awesome. Take another breath. Exhale. Awesome. Now go and take your hands down. You could put them on your blocks. We're going to shift the hips back and forth a few times. So shift your hips back, straighten out your right leg. Hands can be on blocks somewhere between the foot and the back knee. And then shift forward as you breathe in. Bend the right knee over the ankle. Shift your hips back, lengthen the right leg, exhale. And then shift the weight forward, bend the right knee, inhale. Think of this like the Tin Man oiling up his joints. We're just going to create a little movement here, a little heat. Breathe out as your hips shift back. Breathe in as your hips shift forward. Now the next time your hips shift back, just hang out there. Look forward at your right foot. Try to point all of your right toenails upwards towards the ceiling, but then press forward with the ball mound of your foot, as if you were standing on something with your tippy toes. Now push your heels straight down through the floor and create this isometric action like you're pulling the floor back. Now take a glance at your kneecap. Can you watch your kneecap slide up your thigh bone to turn on your right quadricep? Our bodies do this thing called reciprocal inhibition. When you activate the quad, the hamstring releases. We're going to keep a little bit of a bend so you don't lock it out. And then check in with your shoulders, roll them back and down. Imagine your heart wanted to see your knee first. Good, take one more breath here. Exhale. Awesome. Create a little length in your arms, shift your weight forward, take your hands forward as well, and then we'll just switch up the feet. So bring the right knee back alongside the left, and then step forward with the left foot. We'll take a twist here. So the right hand stays down, and the left hand lifts up. Now just like the other side, notice if your bottom shoulder dumps in, try to roll that shoulder back and down. And that's true for every pose. Imagine you had a pencil between your shoulder blades, squeeze right there. When we hug to the midline, we resist gravity's downward pull. The same is true for your legs. Keep your left knee in close to your chest. And then pull the left hip back, twist a little more, last breath. Cool. We'll bring the hands onto the thigh and then lift up with the chest. Just take a few breaths into the front of that right hip. Here's where you can notice if you're swaying into your back. Shift your hips back if that's the case. Lengthen your tailbone towards the floor. Think about the front of your waistband lifting upwards towards your ribs, and then keeping your pelvis in that neutral position. Maybe the front knee bends, and you get a deeper sensation in that right hip and more length in the lower back. Relax your shoulders, spread through your left toes, and imagine you could pull the floor back with that left foot. One more breath. All right, now let the hands come down. Grab your blocks or your books, and then we'll shift the hips back and extend the front leg, exhaling. And then pulse. Shift the weight forward, bend the left knee. Inhale, sorry. Breathe out, shift your hips back, lengthen your left leg. Breathe in, shift your hips forward, bend the left knee. Go with the breath 3 more times. Exhale, half splits. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, hips back, lengthen your left leg. Inhale, hips forward, bend the left knee. All right, now this time shift your hips back, stay there. Use your eyes, check your alignment. Press forward with the tippy toes of your left foot. Press down with your heel. Lift up with your kneecap. And then you can check and see if your right thigh bone is vertical, straight up and down. Little bend in the elbows, scoop your shoulders back, leading with your heart. Good, take one more good breath. Good, go ahead and lengthen through your spine, bend the front knee, move your props aside, and then come into a modified plank pose. So hands are underneath the shoulders, but knees are not underneath the hips. Find a diagonal line from your knees to your crown. Remember to add that bend in your elbows. Roll your shoulders up by your ears and then shrug your shoulders back and down. Now push the floor away. Think about doming your upper back. So the upper back slightly rounds. You're protracting your shoulder blades. You're using your rhomboids to separate your shoulder blades. Now we're going to lower to the floor, but on the way down, you're going to do a shoulder shrug and then try to pinch your shoulder blades together so you retract your shoulder blades at the end. Exhale, start to bend your elbows. Scoop your shoulders up by your ears, loop your shoulders back and down, squeeze them together, and then land with your rhomboids retracted. Go ahead and untuck the toes. So the tops of your feet are on the floor, pressing into the tops of your feet. Lengthen your tailbone towards your heels, and then keeping the legs heavy on the floor. Lift your head, lift your chest. Baby cobra. Think about hugging your shoulder blades together on your back. Push your hands through the floor and pull the floor back. Beam your heart forward, one more breath. Awesome, relax your forehead to your mat. Press up onto your hands and your knees, come back towards tabletop, breathe in. And then shift your hips towards your heels, child's pose, forehead towards the floor, let it go. Now we're gonna repeat that 2 more times. See if you can notice the ball mounds of your hands pushing into the floor. That's where we want to have the majority of our weight so we can protect our wrists. No dumping into the wrists. Exhale everything out. Inhale as you lift your hips, shift your shoulders forward over your wrists, weight into the ball mounds, lengthen your tail. Exhale as you bend your elbows, roll your shoulders back and down, elbows hug in, retract the rhomboids. Top of the feet on the floor, inhale, lift your heart, lift your head, but keep your hips on the mat. Good, and then back into the child's pose. Exhale, push onto your knees, bring your hips to your heels, your forehead to the floor. We'll go directly into our last one. Inhale, coming back up to hands and knees, shoulders over wrists, knees not under the hips. Exhale, bend the elbows, squeeze your shoulders together on your back, hug your elbows in. And then a baby cobra. Inhale to lift your head, your heart, your ribs. Coming back onto hands and knees, child's pose. Exhale. So this is a great modification for your Chaturanga Dandasana, your tricep push-up. If you ever feel like your arms are still working on building strength, use the support of your knees as you move through your practice. Trust that you have your whole life to build that strength. Don't rush it. All right, let's talk about downward dog. Come back up onto your hands and your knees. Now, to set up, I don't want your hands under your knees. I want your hands one handprint forward of underneath your shoulders. Sorry. No hands under shoulders, hands in front of shoulders. All right, now tuck the toes and hover the knees just an inch above the floor, and then look back at your feet. See your feet, their hips width apart, spread out your toes nice and wide. Keep that lift in the heels as you start to lengthen your legs. So you're on your tippy toes and you're trying to straighten out your legs. Now keep that tone in your quadriceps and slowly let the heels sink towards the floor. Nice, let's try that a few more times. So rise onto your tippy toes, breathe in. Bend your knees a lot, like almost to the ground. And then inhale, re-extend your legs as long as you can go. And then slowly the heels sink towards the floor. One more time. Inhale, rise onto your tippy toes. Exhale, bend your knees a lot, like almost on the ground. Inhale, rise back up, long legs, and then let the heels sink towards the floor. Now feel free to bend your knees if it feels like your tailbone is rounding under and you're having a hard time lengthening your spine. Right? A bend in the knees can help you lift up your tailbone and then press your chest towards your thighs. Now look forward. Check out your hands. Spread out your fingers. Use a lot of surface area. Try to ground the ball mound of your hand the most so you don't dump into the heels of your palms. And then look at your elbow creases. Can you make your elbow creases see each other? So spiraling them in a little bit. Now hug the lower ribs in. I imagine giving the floor, the earth, a really hard high five. Like double high five the ground. Hug those bottom ribs in. Feel the lats and the triceps turn on. Then you can relax your ears between your arms. There you go. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Doing great. Take one more breath. All right, now come onto your tippy toes again. Look up. Exhale as you bend your knees a lot. And then here's where you can hop or do a walk to the top. So big step forward with one foot, followed by the other. Feet are hips width apart. Go ahead and extend the spine halfway up so your spine is parallel to the floor. Your hands can be on blocks, or you could place your hands on your shins if you don't have blocks. Hug the low ribs in. Lengthen the tailbone, turn on the quads, lean forward into the tippy toes, and then bring your hands to your hips. Point your elbows up to the sky, and then start to rise all the way to stand. Relax your arms by your sides, and just close your eyes here. See if you can notice any swaying. Forward, back, side to side. And then try to make the swaying stop. Lean your hips back so they stack over your heels. Lean your heart back so it stacks over your hips. Lean your head back so it stacks over your heart. And then remember to resist gravity's downward pull. We hug to the midline. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Squeeze the legs into one another. And as you breathe out, find that tone in your abdomen. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Take one more breath. Let it go. Very nice. Inhale, lift your arms up over your head. Exhale, fold forward, soften through your knees. Inhale, find that halfway lift where your spine is parallel to the earth, hands to the shins. Now you can take your hands down onto the floor or the blocks. We're going to keep the right foot where it is and just step that left foot back. Now keep your feet hips width apart and put your left heel on the ground so your back foot is about 45 degrees. And then when you rise up, hands to hips, feel those pointy hip bones. Try to lift them upwards and then spin the left hip forward, the right hip back. So both of them feel like they're pointing straight ahead. Now it's the grounding of your left heel that's going to help you drive your left hip forward. And then pull the right hip back while stacking the right knee over the ankle. Charge up that left quad, the left glute, and then if it feels all right, arms overhead. Warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. Now when I first started doing yoga, this was my least favorite pose because I found it really hard to square my hips forward. Doing ballet, everything was always open hips, right? So what's helpful for me is to take my feet wider. If my right foot's farther to the right, my left foot's farther to the left, then I can easily stack my right knee over my ankle and ground my left foot. It has also helped to bring my feet closer to one another, so I can keep the stack of the front knee without the back heel lifting. Now just be here for another breath. Virabhadrasana one. Nice. And then take your hands back onto your hips, turn your chest to the left, and then spin your left toes open. Heel toe your right foot in, so your right heel intersects the inside left foot. Now notice if that right hip is lower than the left, like you're dumping into the front one. See if you can lift the right hip bone, make your waistband parallel. And then push your right hand into the inner right knee. Open up that right knee, sink into it. Use your palm to help you open up the right knee towards the pinky toe edge of your foot. Now, with your left hand, reach for that back leg, the hamstring, the back of your thigh, and think about rolling that thigh bone inwards. So in Warrior Two, your front leg is externally rotating. It's rolling open to the right. And your back leg is internally rotating. It's rolling inwards. Yeah, so find that alignment with the ribs over the hips. Stack your chin over your right shoulder and reach your arms from edge to edge. Great place to add that micro bend in your elbow so you can add more tone to your triceps. And then keep squeezing your shoulder blades together on your back. Pinch that imaginary pencil. Now imagine the heels can also pull the floor together. Awesome, so much work in just this pose. Stay stacked with the right knee over the ankle, and then we'll reverse the warrior. So extend your right arm up to the sky and let your left hand relax down your back leg. Now in this one, just use your mind's eye to feel the right knee still on top of the ankle, still pushing open like your imaginary hand is there. Drive more weight down your back leg, down the outer edge of your foot. Breathe into your right lungs, lean back, 2 more breaths. Awesome. Then come back to warrior 2, arms wide to a T, and we'll lean forward. Rest your right forearm on your right thigh. Use that to help you open up your right knee a little bit more to the side. That left hand can reach straight up for the ceiling, or it can come to your hip. You can also extend it alongside your ear. We call this extended side angle pose, so find that extension. Now keeping the right knee over the ankle, guide it open, scoop your sitting bone under, and then sink a little deeper into that right thigh. We'll take 3 more deep breaths with the intention of opening up the inner right thigh, lengthening the left side of your waist, and deepening the hips. 1 more round. Exhale everything out. Good. Go ahead and come back up to your warrior 2. Breathe in. Now exhale and cartwheel your hands to the floor, framing your front foot. Step forward with your back leg so you come to the top of your mat. Find that halfway lift. This is just a way to extend and reset the spine. And then we'll switch out the legs. So hands can be on blocks or the floor. Bring your right foot behind you and then spin your back heel to the ground 45 degrees. We're heading into warrior 1. So the feet at hips width apart, hands to the hips so you can measure it out. And then remember, if it helps you to widen your feet or shorten the distance between your feet, we're looking for the stack of the left knee over the ankle, the grounding of that right heel, and both hips pointing straight ahead. Now the grounding of the right heel helps you drive your right hip forward, deepen the bend in the left knee. Find a little more length in your tailbone, more lift in the front of your waistband, and then arms reach up for the ceiling. Warrior 1. Virabhadrasana 1. Now over time, you might be able to bring the feet a little closer towards one another. Also the hands. They can come together, palms touch, maybe the fingers lace. Take 1 more breath. And then we'll make it warrior 2. I'm going to spin around, but keep the left knee over the left ankle. Just turn your hips open and then widen the right foot back and try to get the left heel to intersect the instep of the right foot. Now use your left hand to open up your left knee. Use your right hand to internally rotate your right thigh so that right thigh bone draws forward and down. And then you could look down. Do your ribs stack over your hips? Is your waistband parallel? Awesome. Open your arms wide to a T. Little bend in the elbows, shoulders pinching on your back, heels pinching in on your mat. Find that inner squeeze. Exhale, deepen the left knee. Feel your ribs float, breathe. Exhaling. Awesome, lift the left arm up over your head, relax the right arm down your back leg. Now I know you can't see that front knee, but can you feel the stack of your knee over your ankle? Use the outer hip muscles to draw the thigh bone wide. Grounding into the outer edge of your back foot. Try not to collapse into the arch. 1 more breath. Good, nice. Reverse warrior, also called peaceful warrior or exalted warrior. Inhale, come through center, warrior 2, and then exhale, go the other way, side angle pose. Left forearm towards the thigh, so you can open up that left knee gently. Draw the left sitting bone under towards the right heel, and then keep reaching the right arm for the ceiling or extend it alongside your ear. Now if you're doing that arm extension, try not to get crunchy in your right shoulder. Roll that right shoulder back and down. Spiral your palm to face the ground. And then you can look up at your palm like it's a palm tree, just giving you cover, giving you shade. Take 2 more breaths. Awesome. Go ahead and come back up to your warrior 2. Breathe in. Deepen the front knee. Exhale just a little more. Now take an in breath. Exhale, windmill your hands to the floor and step back this time so you can come into plank pose. High plank pose or modified plank pose. Now we're going to do that same thing. Somewhere between here and the bottom of our push-up, there's going to be a shoulder shrug happening. Squeeze your knees if your knees are lifted. Breathe in. Exhale, start to bend your elbows, shrug your shoulders up, squeeze them together on your back, hug the shoulder blades together, hug the elbows in by your sides as you lower. Flip the tops of your feet to the ground, and then inhale. You could do baby cobra with the hips on the floor, or to make it upward dog, have the hands slide back a little bit, and then lift your hips, thighs, and heart. So it's just the hands and the feet on the floor. Spread through your toes, turn on your quads, lengthen through your tail. Take one more breath in. And then you can choose child's pose with the knees wide, hips back on the heels, or downward facing dog. As long as you're breathing, you've made the right choice. Now check back in with that breath. Find the melody that you started your practice with. Now, in a vinyasa yoga class, we link movement to breath, which is what we're going to try to do here. Just let your breath be your guide. And we'll move through those series of poses so you can have them set in your mind. Start with an exhale. Remember, the more you breathe out, the more space you create for that next breath in. And if you're in the child's pose, use that next breath in to shift your hips up off your heels from the tabletop. Exhale, coming into downward facing dog. Breathe everything out. Now inhale to lift your right leg high into the sky. Exhale, step forward with your right foot. Ground your left heel at 45 degrees. Inhale to come up, warrior one, hips pointing straight ahead. Now turn your chest to the left, open wide, warrior two. Right knee over ankle, the left toes open a little bit. Then we reverse the warrior, right arm over your head, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. Now leaning forward, right forearm towards your right thigh, side angle pose. Exhale, left hand to the sky or alongside your ear. Then the breath in will carry you back up to warrior two, ribs directly over the hips. Now a long breath out, hands cartwheel to the ground. Step your right foot back, coming into modified plank or high plank. I'll stick with the modified. Lower down, chaturanga, hug the elbows in. Inhale, coming into baby cobra, lifting your heart, keeping the hips grounded. Exhale, press onto the knees, tuck the toes, lengthen through your legs, back into downward facing dog. Other side. Inhale, lift your left leg nice and high. And to step forward, lift your right heel a lot and keep your left thigh close to your heart. Once that left foot is underneath the left knee at the top of your mat, ground your right heel. And inhale as you reach up with your hands, warrior one. Exhale, turn your heart to the right, fan your arms wide, warrior two. Inhale, extend your left hand up into the sky, drape your right arm down your back leg. And then as you breathe out, tilt the other way. Left forearm towards your thigh, right hand towards the sky. Inhale to float back up, warrior two. Exhale, cartwheel your hands towards the earth. Step back, plank pose. Keep lowering, bend your elbows, shrug your shoulders, lengthen your tail. Inhale, choose the baby cobra with the hips on the floor, or you can do up dog. We're gonna take it one more round. Shifting back towards the knees, tuck the toes, downward dog. Here we go. Inhale, right leg to the sky. Exhale, step forward with your right foot, spin your left heel to the ground, 45 degrees. Use one breath in to rise up into warrior one. Exhale, spin your heart open to the left, widen your stance, right heel intersecting the left heel, warrior two. And then the right arm lifts up over your head, expand the right side of your waist. Now the other side, right forearm to the thigh, extend the left arm over your head, extend to the left side of your waist. Breathing in to come back up to center. Exhale, cartwheel your hands to the floor, keep breathing out. Right foot steps back, lower towards chaturanga. These push-ups are also skippable. Yeah, you can just go straight into downward facing dog. That's where we'll meet. We got one more side to go. Stay with me. Inhale, lift your left foot. Exhale, step your left foot forward. You can also grab onto the ankle to help it come to the top of the mat. Right heel's on the ground, 45 degrees. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, turn your heart open to the right. Fan your arms wide. Bend the left knee. Keep the stack of the left knee over the ankle as you lift your left hand up into the ceiling. Coming into the side angle pose. Left forearm to the thigh, right hand towards the sky. Inhale to rise. Warrior two. Exhale, cartwheel your hands to the earth. Keep breathing out, step it back. Plank to chaturanga is your choice. Inhale, coming through up dog or baby cobra. Exhale, you choose down dog or child's pose. I love this ability to get into flow state. Just witness what it's like. For me, it's connection. I just feel connected in flow state. Body, breath, and mind connected, but also like I'm connected to something greater. And in this time of isolation, we got to take the connections wherever we can. Enjoy this. Two more deep breaths. Awesome. Now we'll come a little deeper into the hips. So whether you're in child's pose or downward facing dog, your goal is to step your right foot outside of your right hand. So if you're in child's pose, you can come onto your hands and knees and then slide that right foot outside the right hand. If you're in the downward dog, lift your right leg to the sky, inhale, step the right foot outside the right hand, exhale. Now the left knee's on the floor, you can scooch it back, and we'll come into runner's lunge, also sometimes called lizard pose. So you can stay up high on your hands. Feel free to grab your blocks, bring them under your elbows. I like to turn my right toes open to the right, and I like to let my knee open to the side as well, so I can add a little sway side to side, get deep into the hips. Now, check back in with the breath. Remember, it's your guide. So if the breathing stops, you've gone too deep, you can lift your hips higher or not go on your elbows. But if you feel like you're breathing okay, see if a quad stretch is a good idea. You can keep that left hand down on the block or the floor, and then the right hand will reach back. Now your hamstring will help you bend your left knee and bring your foot into your hand. But if you can't catch your foot, your hamstring is just going to keep firing and you might get a cramp. So just let the foot go back to the previous pose. If you have your right foot on your right hand on your left foot, relax the hamstring and just use your arm to pull your heel in. Breathe into the left quad. And notice if you've rounded the shoulders forward or stuck out your tail. Try to reverse those. Lengthen your tailbone, draw your shoulders back. More of a back bend. Awesome. If you have your foot in your hand, go ahead and let it go. If you're on your elbows, walk up onto your hands again. And then heel toe your right foot in between your thumbs. So your right heel is underneath your right knee again. Take your right hand onto your right thigh and then extend your left hand up into the sky. Now I want you to notice if you're sticking out your tail again, try to lengthen your tailbone down, lift the front of your waistband. So we minimize the back bend because we're going to add a twist. Guide the right knee in a little bit. Get longer on the left side of your body. Breathe in. And then take your left elbow outside your right thigh. You can hook your elbow there and bring your hands to prayer, or you can take your right hand to your lower back. Think about how we resist gravity again. We hug to the midline. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Squeeze your inner thighs towards one another. Hug your belly button in towards your spine as you exhale. And then maybe, keeping that inner squeeze, you could tuck the left toes and lift the left knee. If you have the left knee lifted, turn on the quad, turn on the glute. Eyes can look down or up, but where you look is part of the pose. Twisted lunge. Take one more breath. Awesome. Go ahead and lower the back knee to the floor if it's lifted. Hands to the earth. Awesome. Then step it back to the plank pose, or maybe a three-limbed plank this time. So 2 hands on the floor, right leg floats behind you. Take a breath in. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Bend the elbows as you lower. Inhale, up dog or baby cobra. All the toenails on the floor for that one. And then downward facing dog. Exhale to get there. We'll go straight into the other side when you're ready. Extend your left leg to the sky. Place the left foot by the left hand, the pinky. Bring the right knee down. Roll the shoulders back and down. Lifting through the heart. Maybe the elbows come to the ground. Elbows can be on the ground or blocks. Now if we're gonna do the quad stretch, go ahead and take your time to come up onto your hands. The left hand is gonna reach back. You're gonna use your right hamstring to give your right foot to your left hand. Then you're gonna relax your hamstring as you pull your heel in. Breathing into the front of your quad, your thigh. Add that back bend, shoulders back. Lengthen through the tail. This is one of my favorite poses. I just feel like it targets a lot of things at once. Cool, and then we'll set up for our twist. So release your foot if it's in your hand, heel to the left foot in, stacking left knee on top of left ankle, left hand on top of left knee. Right arm upwards towards the sky, right by your ear. No dumping in the low back. Lift the front of your waistband. Now that we have a more neutral spine, we can add a twist. Guide the left knee in momentarily. Extend long through your right side, inhaling. Then hook right elbow outside left thigh. Now you could have left hand on low back or left hand touches right hand. Now try not to dump forward. Instead, lift your heart up into your thumbs. Roll your shoulders back and down and use the power of your left hand to push into your right hand so your thumbs come closer to the heart center, the sternum. Feel that squeeze of your shoulder blades on your back, of your inner thighs to the midline, and then maybe the right toes tuck and the right knee lifts. Use your glute, fire it up. Use the quad too. And then if you're breathing okay, want a little more heat, see if you can lift your rib cage off of your thigh bone and then use that space to twist. Look up, keep grounding through your left big toe. One more breath. All right, here we go. Hands to the mat. Step your left foot back, plank pose or three-limbed plank perhaps. Exhale, bend your elbows, Chaturanga Dandasana, tricep push-up. Upward facing dog, tops of the feet on the floor. Exhale, downward facing dog. Drawing the navel in to help your hips rise. It's great core practice that you can use every time you do that transition. Keep that little bend in your elbows, wrap your triceps, hug your ribs in, shake out your head. Take one more good breath. Now make your way towards the middle of your mat so your feet travel forward and your hands travel back. Feet are going to be hips width apart. Go ahead and extend your spine again, halfway up like you did before. And then fold forward, stand on your hands. So bend your knees as much as you need to and try to get your hands underneath the soles of your feet till your toes touch your wrist crease. For all that your hands do for you, give them this moment. Massage your hands with your toes. Pull your hands up into your feet. Let the elbows bend slightly. Relax your head, shake it out. 2 more breaths. A moment of gratitude for having 2 hands, 10 fingers. What would you do without them? Thank you, hands. Now go ahead and slide your hands out from under you. Flat back, hands to the hips. I shouldn't say flat back. There's a little curve in your lower back and your neck. Now from hands to hips, rise up the rest of the way. Keep the hands on the hips. Move your hips back. Bend your knees forward like you're sitting in a chair. Squat down. Chair pose, Utkatasana. Now see if you can move your hips back a little bit more so the toes start to float off the floor. And then bend your knees deeper so you bring more weight into the ball mounds of your feet. Now feel those hip bones lift up. Decompress the hip crease. And then the hands can travel forward by your shoulders, in line with your shoulders, or up by your ears. Now the spiraling in of the hands is the same thing you did in downward dog. So like the elbow creases can see each other. Shoulders still gather on the back. And then squat a little lower. Keep the weight in the heels, but there is some distribution to the ball mounds of the feet. One more, good breath. Awesome, rise up, reach up over your head. Take your elbows wide like a cactus. Exhale. Awesome. Now keep the elbows wide like that and weave your right elbow underneath your left elbow. Spiral your forearms, or you can hug your shoulder heads. Now with your right elbow underneath your left elbow, that means we're going to put the right thigh on top of the left thigh. So stand on your left foot, lift the right thigh, and drape it over the left thigh. So we're always wrapping around one side, yeah? And you can squeeze your inner thighs together, squeeze your biceps together, and imagine the more you squeeze to the midline in front of you, the more space you're creating in the back body behind you. So as the elbows get closer, the shoulder blades broaden, and as the knees get more compact, the connection point of the thigh bones into the pelvis gets more broad, creating space in the low back, especially if you want to lean forward, and call it sleeping eagle, where the elbows get close to the knees. You're doing great. Take one more breath. See if you can swivel your knees over to your left, just an inch or so. Oh, sorry, you're right. All right, now start to unwrap. Come back to that cactus arms, the elbows wide, feet on the floor. And then we'll go the other way. Now left elbow underneath right elbow, forearm spiral, or you have the shoulders in your hands. Bend the knees, left thigh bone over right thigh bone. Now the toes can be on the floor, or you can work on that hook where the toes slide behind the calf. And if you have your thumb in your hand, try to grab onto it. Roll the shoulders back, lift the elbows, squeeze into the midline, and sink a little deeper. Drawing the elbows towards the knees if you did that on the other side. And then start to lift your chest back up, and we'll unweave the arms back into the cactus style, feet on the floor. Cool. Now let the hands come to the hips. Shift the weight onto the left foot again. And we'll move into tree pose. So open up the right knee and place your right foot against your left ankle or your shin or your inner thigh. Now, you want to push your foot into your leg firmly. So make sure you're not pushing into your knee, because your knee only goes forward and back, does not like to go sideways. And then feel your foot pushing into your thigh at the same strength that your big toe is pushing into the floor. Establish that equal and opposite force. It's just physics. And then when you feel that support, then you could start to change your eyes, looking up perhaps. And then focus on something, maybe a point in the ceiling. And then keep looking at it as you reach your arms up. Now, even though you're not looking at your grounded big toe, you can still feel it pushing into the floor. Just like you can feel your other foot pressing into your thigh. Push it strongly, so much that it might even feel uncomfortable. But then learn to trust that feeling. It'll hold you as you lean back a little bit more. Now the intention of this pose is to stretch the inner thigh. That's one of the intentions. So keep pressing your right knee back. Take one more good breath like you're hanging from the sky. Add a little more lightness. And then reset. Hands to heart center. Lower the right foot. Shake it off. And then we'll find tree pose on the other side when you're ready. Vriksasana. So start with a nice wide base. Spread out your right toes. Open up the left knee and choose your tree. Your left foot against your ankle, your shin, or your inner thigh. Not a competition. Just do whatever allows you to breathe. Not a competition with your other side. It doesn't have to be the same. You're either goofy-footed or you're regular-footed. So once you find that steady trunk, that equal and opposite force, right big toe pushing down into the floor, left foot pushing into the thigh, feel that steady trunk and then shift your eyes. Get used to that shift in your balance, and only then maybe the arms extend to the sky. Feel the tone in your standing leg, the glute especially. Steady trunk will support you as you lean back a little bit more. But it's okay if you fluctuate in the wind. Right? How do we handle fluctuations in our life? We breathe and we ground. This is where we learn how to do all of that. Take one more breath. Awesome. And then go ahead and take the feet back to the ground. Relax the arms by your sides. Take a shoulder shrug. Just let that go. And then we'll give the feet a little extra attention. Bring your feet together so the big toes connect. Lift your arms up on your in-breath. Exhale as you fold forward. And then your hands can come to the floor. Bend your knees a lot. Let your hips come all the way down towards your ankles. And then rise onto your tippy toes. So you're on the ball mounds of your feet. Then take your nose between your knees. And have a little chat with your feet. Thank you, feet. What would I do without you? You're doing great. You get stronger with every practice. I'm so proud of you, and I don't know how I would get through life without you leading me there. Thank you, feet. Now go ahead and take your seat to the ground, and we will lay all the way back. So if you need a sip of water or anything, take a moment to do that. And then I'll have you hold on to the back of your thighs as you slowly roll your spine down onto the floor. When you get there, hug your knees in. You can wrap your arms around your shins, rock it out. And then we'll come into, we call it wind removing pose. The right knee is going to stay in your arms. The left leg is straight, all the way down your mat. Just let it extend long. But imagine your left foot is standing on a wall. So the foot is flexed. And then add an ankle circle with that right foot. Now twist your right knee across your chest over towards the left side of you and try to scooch your left hip bone underneath your right hip bone. Imagine your pelvis tilting completely on its side. And then when your right arm opens to the right, your shoulder may not touch the floor, but that's okay. Just let it snuggle towards the ground. Turn your chin to the right. Close your eyes. Breathe out. Just let gravity help pull you into your twist. Excellent. And then we'll come back to center. Keep that right knee in your hands. Take a bend in the left knee. Place your left foot on the floor. And then crisscross right ankle over left thigh so you can find figure 4. Now keep that right ankle flexed. Push your right hand into your right knee. See if you can create a little arch underneath your lumbar spine, like when we did cow pose. You can stay here, or if you're not quite feeling anything, interlace your hands behind your left thigh bone, and then hug your legs in towards your chest. Use your right elbow to press your right knee away from you. And notice if your tailbone is lifting up. See if you can press your sacrum into the floor and come back into that little arch. Awesome. Now if you have your hands interlaced behind your left thigh, keep them like that. Uncross your right ankle and stretch your right leg long. Meet us here in the wind removing pose, interlacing your hands on the top of your left shin, hug your knee in towards your left shoulder, and then add that ankle circle while you press out through the right heel. Go ahead and twist your left knee over towards the right. Scoot your right hip underneath your left hip. Turn your chin to the left, open your left arm. Breathe out, fall into your twist. Awesome. Then come on back to center. Gather your knees in. Hold on to them with your hands, and then just move your knees in circles. We'll say 3 clockwise circles and then 3 counterclockwise circles. Just close your eyes and feel your back being massaged into the floor. Reversing the circles on your own. Now we'll do one last pose to exert the rest of our energy before we rest. Bridge pose. But as you massage your back, just notice how it feels, because you can choose to skip it if your back is not wanting to do that right now. Otherwise, bring your feet to the ground, heels or hips width apart, so their heels are underneath your knees, and then arms by your sides. Feel your head push into the floor. Shrug your shoulder blades back so they're flat. Exhale out of your mouth. Inhale, lift your hips up off the floor. Now you can interlace your hands behind your back or just keep your hands where they are. Feel your big toes pushing into the mat. Try to magnetize your knees in towards one another. Press your heels straight down and then try to push the floor forward. Lengthen your tailbone toward your knees. That same lift in the front of the waistband we've been doing, so you can lift your hips even higher. Now feel the chest coming up towards the chin, and then give your throat a little more space. Lift the chin away from the chest. Dragging the back of the skull down the mat. 3 more breaths. 2, 1. Awesome. Release your hips back onto the floor. Gather the knees in. Wrap your arms around your shins. This time take your head off the floor, nose towards the knees. Squeeze everything. Flex your face, your feet, your biceps. Get really tight. Use all that excess energy. Breathe in. And then exhale, let it go. Shavasana is corpse pose, exactly as it sounds. Extend your legs long and have your feet as wide as your mat so the feet just flop out. Arms are also extended long, palms facing up. And then feel the back of your head pushing into the floor. Shrug your shoulders down. Feel the back of the neck get longer. And then keep your awareness there until you feel the back of the neck release. Feeling the shoulders, the back of the scapula, the rib cage sink into the mat. Witness that natural curve in your lower back. And feel your heavy hips, hamstrings, heels. And as you wrap your awareness around the soles of your feet, check in with each one of your toes. See if you can relax each one of those. Imagine your shins were just melting off the bone. The thighs heavy, weighing down the bones. Notice your belly as it rises and falls with the breath. And you could release that Ujjayi breath we began our practice with. No control of the breath, just let it flow on its own. See if you can witness the beating of your heart in your chest. A moment of gratitude for that. Witness the soft throat, no longer engaged. Feel your jaw relax and release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Feel your eyes pivot downward in their sockets. And then continue to hold your attention in your head, watching the thoughts as they come and go. Perhaps asking the question, I wonder what my next thought will be. I wonder what my next thought will be. It's quite interesting what happens when you're waiting for that next thought. Explore. The space between thoughts. It is quiet and timeless. Space between thoughts is where we find peace and serenity. If you're new to this practice of mindfulness, just know that the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And the simple fact that you can notice your thoughts is huge. Just focus on that and reward yourself, acknowledge yourself for every time you notice when you're thinking. Because then when you notice that you're thinking, you can wonder, without the thoughts, who is the listener? The observer, the seer, the witness consciousness. This part of you is super curious about what it's like to live a human existence. So as you rest here in Shavasana or continue your quarantined routines, I invite you to operate from this version of you that is good at listening, witnessing, seeing, and see if you can just be curious about this strange time we find ourselves in. That's it. Let the curiosity lead to courage. And trust that if you just do the work, do the practice, that peace, that enlightenment on earth will come. Again, my name is Arielle. Thank you so much for joining me. Please stay in your Shavasana as long as you need. From my heart to yours, Namaste. The light in me honors the divine light within you. The witness in me sees the witness in you.